Welcome to Movie and a Beer, everybody. This is Dan Kopersky bringing us in, and we have our wonderful two great friends and co-hosts with us tonight.
I'm Blake, your Bill Murray expert.
I'm Aaron, your advanced. What is it?
Oceanography?
Open water.
Open water oceanography expert.
Yeah, I have my advanced open water diving certificate. That's the expertise I bring here.
I was going to say maybe amateur, because you do remember the word.
I do have a PADI certification, so I do know how to open water dive, but I haven't done it in 30 years.
I drink a lot of water.
That I did too. So
we're all certified in drinking water, too.
We're all certified in drinking something or being in something.
Why is that? What movie do we watch?
I don't know. We watched another 2004 film. I mean, we're just
weird.
You know,
what a crazy coincidence, and definitely not planned.
Not planned at all. Again, we watched Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou, which is a Wes Anderson film
starring Bill Murray,
Kate Blanchett,
Angelica Houston, Willem Dafoe,
Owen Wilson.
Oh, yeah. It's got a bunch of. This is all right. So
and Seu Jorge. We can't forget Seu Jorge.
Of course,
there's
Sale Gorgie.
Yes.
What?
So with this great film, we had picked up the film ahead of time, and I was like digging in my beer fridge going like, all right, we need something to like head-to-head combat with this, because this is a really interesting, strange film, not unlike the last one we just did.
The genres kind of clash with each other. A bit of action, a bit of classic Wes Anderson-ness, that vibe, and like a meta documentary.
So I went with this idea of, okay, so there are styles of beer, like there are styles of film. There's Wes Anderson sort of has his own category at this point.
Yeah.
It's a bunch of different things all put in together, but it's under one category. So I was thinking black lagers. I had a black lager from Matchless, Little Beast, and Baerlic Brewing. All three completely different, but considered black lagers. So we will talk about those in a little bit. But again, you have this genre of film that Wes Anderson has kind of like brought into his own owning. He just does his own interesting fun stuff.
He is unique and distinctive.
Yes.
Yeah.
The visual, the framing.
Oh, I love the framing.
We're gonna shoot
the camera work.
The camera work. It's like we
were joking about this earlier, and
I
I referenced how I like how it goes to zoom back and forth in a single headshots, and Aaron pointed out when it happened in the movie.
Yeah,
it's like, oh, that's right. I did talk about that. I love it.
But I feel like there can be like a timing of even the dialogue and the timing of like when a shot begins and ends.
Yeah,
that Wes Anderson kind of has his own signature, his own style.
So this film is kind of based on a mockumentary of...
Well, frankly, it's a documentary.
Documentary of like oceanography.
Yeah.
And they're going after...
A jaguar shark.
A jaguar shark.
It
ate someone.
Sorry, I didn't mean to step on your amazing jaguar shark read, Aaron. I apologize.
But like legitimately, there are things called like tiger sharks. And that made that joke so much better for me.
It did. It was totally funny.
But it killed Steve Zissou's best friend, so he had to get revenge.
So it's like a revenge tale. You know, it's this like who's of Hollywood, and it's a revenge tale. And so this is what I wrote. Boring, yes. Weird, yes. Strange, yes. Worth watching, yes. But only if you have things to drink with it. Because
I disagree with boring, but yes.
boring. All right, so it's not necessarily boring, but it does have some slow, dry parts, as most Wes Anderson films do. But if you expect that and understand that, then you'll know, hey, what you're getting into.
Yeah. It is distinctive and quirky and idiosyncratic. Like there's a sort of like fantasy charm that melds this like
fantasy
sort of
works
like nostalgic 1960s sort of. But then it's current, it's modern, but there's so many throwbacks to like an earlier, more innocent time. I feel like in the technology that's represented, and then also the style of the documentaries that Steve Zissou is creating. And this isn't just Life Aquatic. I'm thinking of like Royal Tenenbaums and some of the other Wes Anderson films too. Like there is a kind of fondness for an earlier time.
Yes.
They're always steeped in nostalgia. Every Wes Anderson film I've seen, I always walk away thinking, I wish I was there. I wish I was there for that time.
Yeah. But you might have been, you're just not aware of it.
Well, Grand Budapest Hotel, I was not alive during when that was a thing. I think
Wes Anderson's never going to make a movie about 2021.
Never.
No.
Pandemic,
leave that to Edgar Wright and or Quentin Tarantino, who also make. And Aaron and I talked about this before the movie. How there's other directors who have a distinct setting, style, pace that you could just put whenever.
Sort of a timeless quality.
Yeah, they don't reference outside events. They never date themselves. but they're still just an enjoyable adventure story. Wes Anderson does the same thing. It's always its own little pocket, almost a pocket dimension.
Kill Bill could have been set in any number of years.
Yeah.
You know? And it's like in Life
As long as
Aquatic.
there's planes,
Yeah, right.
They literally take a sword on a plane.
Well, it's like a golf club.
But also, like Life Aquatic, that could have been like this could have
For
been
murdering.
It swings hard and hits hard, you know.
like a sword.
Like-
Wait a minute.
okay, yeah.
But yeah, this movie, I'd never seen this movie before. I somehow have gone this long in my life, 37 years of not seeing this particular film.
This
and
is
I haven't.
This is the first movie I'm aware of where Blake, you have not seen it, and I have. Like
Wow.
every other movie, it's like Blake's seen it, Blake's
Like
seen
a
it, Blake's
dozen
seen it,
times.
Blake's seen it. And, you know, I maybe have seen it, but no.
Not child appropriate. There is momentary flashes of nudity.
There's a topless
There's-
woman. There's swearing. There's blood. Also, it's dry. It's slow.
very dry.
It's a
A
kid would be
child.
bored to tears.
Yeah,
Right.
they wouldn't get it.
You need to live a few years. Put a few miles of under the odometer of the old life car before.
As stated
That's a
before,
terrible
if you haven't
analogy.
been heartbroken enough, you ain't gonna understand it.
That I was saying that to Blake earlier. It's
Yes,
like
that's
Bob
what I'm saying,
Dylan in
yeah.
this movie. You need to have a certain amount of life experience,
Yeah.
and a certain amount of heartbreak in order
Well-
to really appreciate.
Well, it follows Steve Zissou, who's a broken man. Like
He's super
See,
broken.
Bill Murray is incredible at playing a guy who's defending with humor and then reveals, "Oh no, I can't keep going on. This is hard. I'm having a bad time."
Really
you know,
bad.
I was just gonna watch Lost in Translation.
Oh, he
and, like,
actually, this movie he had to leave for a few days to accept his Emmy or Oscar, whatever the award is, for Lost in Translation.
But there's a theme, I think, with even like Wes Anderson movies, and Bill Murray's played multiple characters like this too.
Yes.
Of like we were saying, faded glory, of you know, like a formerly very successful person, or you know, in this case, an oceanographer, scientist, marine biologist that's been eclipsed.
Walking around without a shirt and speedos and just looking
Not as much as I expected.
not so sexy. Not so sexy.
I mean, he looked okay.
Jeff Goldblum, sexy.
Well, yeah.
I mean, he literally, the whole meme of him laying out, drinking something is from this film. I kid you freaking not. Like, at the end of the film, one of the end scenes is just him laying out. Like, he got shot and he's like, "Arr."
Yeah, he's wrapped up and he's wearing like the team Zissou
I've got
trousers.
these
Yes.
bandages on me, and they're just they're just popping off.
he's-
Oh no,
But
these
he's
bandages.
He's not drinking straight Campari.
No, he's not.
There was ice in the glass.
We were like, wow. So Mr. Zissou said to one of the unpaid interns, "Hey, go get me a Campari." And the intern's like, "On the rocks?"
Hey, intern, give me a Campari, will you?
On the rocks?
And it's like, yes, you need rocks. With
Even
those
though we're a
credits.
beer and movie podcast, let's just tell you right now: don't drink Campari by itself unless you want to go on an adventure. I guess.
Yeah, it's a pretty hardcore.
Experimentation.
A taste bud horror show.
It's very bitter. And maybe that just matches the character, because the character was super bitter about a lot of things.
He really was.
I mean, he says it in the film. It's like, I have no friends. No one likes me. Meh.
Right after falling down the stairs, after trying to rescue a studio bond. I always remember the word
Bondsman.
Stooge.
A bondsman.
I hope you're not going to bust our chops, Bill.
Why would I do that?
Because you're a bond company stooge.
I'm also a human being.
All right, I take that back.
A bond
Bondsman.
stooge. So
Yeah.
they were getting loaned this money, and the bank was like, "We're going to have our guy go along
That's
and
right,
make
that's
sure
right.
that you don't spend things stupidly."
Right.
And yeah,
and they got hijacked by pirates.
Right.
This movie took a lot of turns I didn't expect. The whole sun drama, the pirates showing up.
well, he says he's like, I hate my father. I wouldn't want to be one.
Right.
Which is true, which he turns into one multiple times over. But it's only through circumstances and not through things
Genetics.
he's chosen. It's not through genetics.
How interesting, though, that he is a father figure to so many other characters in the
Oh,
movie.
Klaus loves him. He said he considered him and his,
You know, he straight out
his-
said, "I think of you as a dad." Yeah.
as a dad. And when Steve tells him, "Yeah, me and Esteban thought you as a little brother," and he starts getting teary eyed, like, "Come on, Klaus, you're better than this.
Yeah.
You formed Oscorp for God's sakes."
He
However,
did.
Klaus also was really emotionally moved by being near the dolphin on the flag.
That's true.
Like,
That's true.
there are some things on the inside group, on the inside culture of this that like we as viewers are never going to understand, because we're not part of that band of misfits that knows what
Those
what
misfit-
the F does a dolphin even mean in the context of a flag? You know, like
Yeah.
why is that so meaningful to Klaus and that character? We're gonna have no idea. We're gonna have no.
You know
idea.
what? Speaking of Klaus, what's your all's favorite character from this movie? He says, I'm torn between Klaus and Ned. The Owen Wilson character was a delight for me. I really liked him.
No. I like Dumbledore.
Oh, Michael Gambon,
Yes.
the guy lending the money who
Yes,
kept calling him darling. And
Yes. And that was Dumbledore. These guys are like, that's not him. I'm like, no, dude, that's seriously him.
No,
dude. He's
oh,
like, get the wand
man.
out.
if I'm going to defend myself, I said, I'm not sure if it's him. And then I
Yes.
admitted my folly.
You know,
Aaron?
Steve Zissou has so many unlikable qualities. I can't say him.
Yes.
But
But it is Bill
He doesn't have enough chest
Murray.
hair.
well, I mean, no. It's like every relationship that character has with a woman is broken. Like
Oh, it's evil.
he yeah. But I also like I don't know the Kate Blanchett's character.
Oh, she's phenomenal.
She phenomenal is actually the same word I was going to use. She's great, but also like Owen Wilson in this movie, he portrays a Kentuckian sensitivity that I was just really blown away by. Like,
It's authentic.
yeah, it's great. And
His
that-
accent kind of comes and goes.
a little bit, but the character that he portrays, I think, makes a lot of sense. Like,
Yeah.
it's
Yes.
believable. It's completely believable. Yeah,
In a Wes Anderson sort of way, believable.
well, it's true. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. Every character in a Wes Anderson movie is step and a half removed from actual reality.
Really not.
I could see
reality.
knowing these people, but I don't know where I'd find them.
At a bar, really drunk.
No, they don't drink.
I think
Not
if you
that
go
much.
if you go to like Curacao, or I think if you go to like tropical parts of the world where
Maybe.
like and if you find the right sort of expat bars, I think you'd find people that are
I could see that.
a little bit like this. Not necessarily
Yeah.
exactly the same, like
Correct.
a washed up marine biologist, but
Oh, you'd be surprised.
a Tenenbaum whose first name is Royal.
yeah, right.
Or someone who looks a lot like someone from the Blue Lagoon is just hanging out at the bar, or from a James Bond film who's just hanging out there at the margarita bar on a beach in the middle of the Tahiti or some shit. It's like, yeah, okay.
But in spite of like
How'd you get my bucket list?
I don't know.
But in spite of these fantastical situations and characters, like the dimensions and the dynamics between these characters are all very human, all very believable. And like you can kind of identify of like, yeah, a father who's surprised by a son he didn't know he had.
Because he shoots blanks.
Maybe it is his son and maybe
Slight
it's not.
spoiler.
Yeah, slight spoiler.
It doesn't
also-
ruin anything. I'm just.
But even
heads
this,
up, guys.
this threadbare patriarch that is in denial about shooting blanks. Like
Pretty much.
that's such a human quality, and I think with Wes Anderson, his characters always have something that's like you can identify with it. You can believe in that type of character and of a person who would be like that, even if it's a really crazy sort of I don't know if I can say the word shitstorm of a scenario, but like even if it's an insane setup, the characters and the dynamics between them are all pretty natural and realistic.
They're very natural. Nothing is explained. You just have to sort of figure it out as you go. And
Which
you're introduced to these characters, and you understand who they are really quickly because
right.
they're vulnerable.
Yeah,
They're vulnerable. They're one note, but still developed.
Correct.
Like they're one note until you keep watching. I guess which is every character is. Oh, that's their thing, and then you keep watching. Oh no, like Klaus.
Yeah.
I thought, oh, okay, this is a fun, wacky, silly sidekick character. As the movie went on, I realized I really sympathize with Klaus.
Yeah.
This guy just wants like a father figure or an
Right.
older brother, and feels threatened by Ned
Ned.
coming in, just taking it without any of the work. Oh man,
and
Yeah.
that long relationship that they've had. You're like that crew had been together like 30
with those
years.
incredible jumpsuits and beanies.
That's right.
And matching pajamas.
And matching
That's
pajamas.
We're filming a documentary out here, ma'am.
You had the uniform, and that I really appreciate having a little experience with like film and doing filmmaking and television and stuff. And it's like, hey, we're going to shoot this. We're going to.
Did it seem accurate?
Scenes, it seemed somewhat accurate. Like we're going to lay out our. Back in the day, you didn't have a computer screen. You couldn't just put stuff up on the wall. You're literally writing out. Here's our schedule. and
Back when
here's
you
the
told your
things."
your pterodactyl to start making the film and
Yes.
start spinning the animal.
The other thing I noticed though, like you remember that scene where the jellyfish all wash up on the shore.
Yes.
And Ned asks, "Well, why do they glow?" And you immediately know that's a faux pas that he's committed. Like it's not the way that things are done. It's not the way that this
shouldn't
group.
ask.
You shouldn't ask. And like And Steve Zissou, like he says, oh yeah, no, it's not some chemical reaction. It's the moon. Like it's iridescent because of reflecting moonlight. And Klaus, I think, was sort of the enforcer of like this way of doing the rules, this traditional, and maybe a part of it is dynamic with Ned for being threatened by Ned.
Could be.
But there is this sort of really well-established in-group with its own culture and its own set of rules that as the viewer and also Ned, we're kind of learning together as the film goes on. Of like, oh yeah, you're not supposed to ask questions while things are filming, because for whatever reason that's just not how we
cut and start over.
Yeah.
And if you're using film, that's expensive and time restrictive.
I mean, this is not digital. They're shooting
on film,
on film, and they had. I appreciated the fact that they had the whole studio set up and the sound booth, and they're doing it. I mean, it's like that's legitimately how it really works.
I wonder how much of that was informed by this being Wes Anderson's 4th film, and him thinking, I just want to show people what happens.
It's legit. I mean, that's really how when you're out in the field and you're doing filming, and I mean, from my experience anyway. I mean, there's other people that have a lot more experience than I do in it, but my exposure to it is that's really what it is. And I've done linear editing, not computerized. It's on film. You're splicing. Here's your start and end point. You tape it together.
Cool.
And there is a cutting room floor.
And there's a cutting room floor. It really exists. That is a real thing.
Weird to see that on a boat, though. Represented on a boat.
Just film thrown over side, just polluting the water. Oh no!
But I know that while we were watching this, there was a lot of comments about the music.
Yeah, phenomenal.
So David Bowie in Portuguese is gorgeous.
A lot of David Bowie.
David Bowie, actually, somebody had asked him about what he thought about the Seu Jorge covers. And David Bowie, he was very gracious. He said, if Seu Jorge had never recorded that, I never would have heard my songs imbued with this additional layer of beauty.
Oh yeah,
and so
totally.
he was very positive about
David Bowie's good people.
Yeah, he was. But
/ Space Aliens / Goblin King.
Thin White Duke.
I had asked some of the songs. I was like, what era are these from? And I think these are all post Ziggy Stardust, but maybe like 70s, late 70s.
Yeah, like Rebel, like mid. I don't know. I mean, David Bowie had such a long career. I can't really keep track of it all. But I feel like thinking about like David Bowie acoustic renditions covered in Portuguese, like that's the level of
complexity.
It like just
specificity,
specific uniqueness that like Wes Anderson. It completely fits with a Wes Anderson movie.
It does.
Yeah, I mean, and it's beautiful and it's great and it's so well done. Those covers, and you can identify. Like there's a real familiarity to like the tune for any classic David Bowie song, but like. Hearing it on an acoustic guitar in Portuguese, it's a really different way of experiencing this thing that you know. And kind of like everybody knows Mutual of Omaha or Jacques Cousteau or like, these classic scientific endeavors from like the 60s. But Steve Zissou is like, I think it's a way of seeing that experience you already have seen in a different way.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I really like about Wes Anderson. He takes something like a family, a dysfunctional family in New York or a prep college experience, or Jacques Cousteau,
or a talking fox,
and he just makes it so that you're experiencing it in a new way.
I really enjoyed the fact that there was an interpretation of these songs, and I don't know if they were all Bowie songs. Watch through the credits.
A lot of them were.
A lot of them were.
A majority were Bowie, but
there's a certain amount of credit that you have to give to the person they found that could play and sing.
Yeah.
And it seemed like it was a lot of boom mic and a lot of environmental sound. It wasn't they weren't.
I commented on the
mic'd.
sound on a few scenes around when they were hitting the helicopter a few times and how everything sounded. Like I noticed I noticed it sounds like they just had a mic on in a room that no one's. And then Dan pointed out no one's mic'd up. And I couldn't stop noticing. It just feels.
Yeah,
it's just
when they're on the boat,
it's organic,
and you hear ocean sound. That is real ocean sound. That's not piped
just
in.
the ocean sloshing around, and
Is that like a Wes Anderson nod to documentary filmmaking?
Maybe it is.
It could be. I don't watch a lot of documentaries.
Yeah, I don't know, but I definitely noticed it. I was like, the sound engineering of this film was really amazing because it's hard to pick that up without getting a lot of other background things. So I applaud them in their ability to get a lot of very clean sound that accentuates, and maybe it was layered in later, but I don't know. But some of the sets were obviously on a set, and some of the scenes were done natural.
Oh, the Belafonte?
Yeah.
You know what I noticed and I didn't care for? The one thing I didn't like about this movie, no one was drinking beer.
There's no beer in this film.
But
Whoa. Oh
There
my
isn't.
gosh, you're
It's
right.
just a
all
Campari.
Campari and champagne at the end. He's holding the champagne. Or no, towards the beginning when they go on their journey.
Yeah.
The child gave him the
Klaus's nephew.
Klaus's nephew gave him the colorful little, I don't know, fish.
Oh, the unicorn horse. Or,
It was a
Seahorse.
seahorse, but there was a
Seahorse.
special name for it
Yeah.
that I already forgot because I was cackling over how he had to save it in a champagne glass.
yeah.
and a flute. Yeah.
So yeah, interesting stuff. We did
Now we drank beer. We didn't drink just Campari with ice.
No.
because we don't hate ourselves.
correct.
No judgment to anyone who does, but good lord,
Hey, when I'm a washed up marine biologist, I'm going to drink Campari.
I'll be your Klaus buddy.
Clank to that. Thanks for hanging in there, everybody. We're going to talk briefly about some beers that we had.
Yes.
So, again, we have some really good friends over at Mac Wine Cellars, Tim and Petra, and they provided us with some beers recently. And we decided to try 3 of their dark lagers that they provided us.
Which I'll tell you, Dan, when you suggested black lagers for Life Aquatic, I was a little skeptical, and then I actually tasted them and thought this actually mostly works.
Right.
Yeah. So, as mentioned at the beginning, black lager is kind of a really generic, high level overlaying category. And there's a lot of different things you can do within that category. A lot of approaches, different malts and different yeasts and different hops you can use, different styles of beer altogether.
Yeah.
And so we tried 3 that were completely different.
Absolutely.
Very distinctive.
Very distinctive.
Yeah.
I really didn't intend this to turn into like, hey, Wes Anderson films, it's an overarching umbrella, but there's so many, like this film has a lot of different parts to it that fit into different categories of filmmaking and styles and approaches and
Some
things.
homage.
These beers do as well. So dark lager in general. So there's 2 kinds of beer in the world. There's ales and lagers. One is warm fermented, one is cold fermented, period. There is nothing in between.
I genuinely keep forgetting there's only 2.
Yeah. These are all ale style lagers, so they're fermented cold. Now you can start out warm, but you need to end cold because that's the yeast is going to live at a certain temperature. The first beer that we tried was from Baerlic Brewing, which is here in Portland. And
There's a bear lick in the woods.
does the bear look in the woods? I do not know, but it was a Sundowner Black Lager, 5.2 ABV, and it's a German style Schwarz beer. And as it does have on the can that it has a German Tentening hops, and they really push the cold fermentation on it to give it like a crisp, kind of like a baked bread cocoa.
I got a
Cold
bready
coffee.
taste on it. I think that's why it was my favorite. Like spoiler for the rest of the beers, this was my favorite, and I think it matched the movie best.
I think it did too.
Yeah, I'm
Good.
inclined to agree with Blake on that.
Thin, a little slight roast. So black lagers shouldn't necessarily be over roasty. It's kind of like if you took a
it's still-
porter and made it light.
Because it's still a lager. It's supposed to be
Correct.
generally light, not as light as a pilsner, but still, an easy to drink beer.
So this is basically when you think about lagers, you have lighter lagers and darker lagers. Pilsners and Helles styles are the lightest.
Helles,
and, Schwarz beers and dark Czech lagers are on the other end of the spectrum. But you can also use, like I said, other kinds of yeast and other kinds of malt. So it's kind of all over the map how you want to do it.
It's amazing how much you can do with a single style of beer.
Yes.
There were a lot of elements, but they all worked together, kind of like a Wes Anderson movie where there's a lot of elements, but they all work together.
That's what you did. That real Tenenbaum scenario.
So the second one that I pulled out of the fridge was a dark Czech lager from Matchless Brewing called Tumva Sova Dark Czech Lager. And I'm totally destroying how you pronounce that because I don't.
Listeners,
speak Czech.
please voice record how to say it because I read it and asked Dan, how do I say this? And he never got back to me
I
because
have
it's
no
tough to
idea
read.
how to say it
The Czech
correctly.
speakers in the audience, please help us out.
Please,
Yeah.
you 2 Czech listeners, I assume.
So they got a hold of the brewery Matchless Brewing got a hold of an old world lager yeast that
That's
basically
so cool.
it's a Czech version of a Schwarz beer. So this is a Czech version using different hops and slightly different malt profile. That's going to give you maybe a little bit more roast. Still going to be thin and light. Again, about 5%. The IBU readings on these are really, really super low because they don't. They typically don't even list them because it's just the bitterness comes from the roast.
Right. It's part of why I like lagers is that they're never that bitter. I don't mind
Right,
bitter, but I
right.
prefer something with less bitter flavor. But is this the one that Aaron mentioned, the raisins?
Yes.
Yeah, there was a lot of I was getting that flavor profile.
Yes.
Really kind of strong and upfront, and it's not unpleasant at all. I liked it. I liked it a lot, but I don't know. The Sundowner just seemed like it had more different things going on, and that kind of all balanced against each other, like this Rube Goldberg machine of a beer.
Yeah.
It felt like watching a movie that had a couple of genres smashed together that don't go together. Like romantic comedy, superhero film. It can work. A lot of them don't.
Like Three Kings, but there's a romance plot.
Yeah. Oh, God. Oh, my God. Yeah. I want to watch it, but I won't like myself afterwards.
Yeah, that would be rough.
So that was pretty good. Maybe not this film, but this could go with maybe something less lighthearted. Something a little
more
watch a serious, sad drama with Clive Owen.
Or an action film of some sort.
I can see an action film with this.
It's got
I can see an action film with this.
A little bit more bite on the back. The third and final beer that we tried, which is actually one of my favorite beers that has come out in the last couple of years.
It's a go-to in the Kaspersky house.
It is. So the Folkvanger from this wonderful brewery called Little Beast here in Portland, and they specialize in sours and wild fermentation beers. This is a quote-unquote dark farmhouse ale fermented with Norwegian Kvik yeast. So Kvik yeast was sort of rediscovered in the last 5 to 10 years or so, became very popular with brewers because it survives at both hot and cold temperatures.
Oh, nice.
So you started out at a warm temp.
It's a hardy element.
Yeah, so you got more flexibility in what you want to...
Yep.
Okay.
You can... Homebrewers love it because you can start it hot and just let it sit. You can go cold. You can step it down in temp. You can do many different things with it.
Like a Wes Anderson movie.
Like a Wes Anderson film. So this one, it's actually a fairly dark, and it's like slight roasted grains, a little bit of funk, and a little bit of grass. So it's going to be a very traditional, and Folkvanger is a nice, I believe it's, I want to say it's probably a Norwegian word for field of battle. I looked it up once, and I
remember you telling me it means field of battle. We were at the fire pit, and I was ranting and raving about how great it was, and being told to, quiet down because it's a neighborhood. But I really like this beer. Always a fan. I feel like it's better for a film, like a action film that's dark, like a John Wick, maybe a Dark Knight Returns.
Yeah, this is a heavy. It's 6.7%. So the other beers are about 5. This is a little bit heavier, a little bigger.
It's still amazing.
It still has shallow mouthfeel, but you are going to get a little bit of roast, and you're going to get that. It almost has like star anise and like a burnt flavor on the back. It's like it's over roasted a little bit.
With that in mind, I would say 80s action movie.
Yes.
Oh yeah,
I could see like one of these throughout a 90-minute 80s action movie, like your Rambos, your anything with Schwarzenegger,
Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Yeah, absolutely. Not quite Wes Anderson. I'd say if you want to watch a Wes Anderson film, at least Life Aquatic, first pick would be the go-to, or something kind of like light but with flavor, with a complexity but not distracting.
Correct.
Because there's a lot happening in the movie.
There is.
Constantly. I feel bad I kept talking to you guys because I was missing a lot of the film, but
Like,
it's a good
we're
night.
watching the movie. Shut up.
But it's a great, but you guys are fun.
All 3 beers are good. I think all 3
Agreed.
of us like the film. It's not it's not, if you're a fan of film and you enjoy not necessarily a challenging film, but something that is fun and creative and different, because this is like, as Blake said while we were watching it, this is like watching a play.
Yeah. It feels very like Clerks. It feels like you're watching a play. Date night if you know what your date's into.
Yes.
And if what your date's into is Wes Anderson.
Yes.
If your
Not
date
for
was
kids.
like a theater person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or a film major.
Well, I'd say, but I mean, if somebody's nostalgic for like those early, sort of scientific, when I was a little kid, I subscribed to Ranger Rick magazine.
I'll fist bump that.
If your date had subscribed to Ranger Rick magazine, this is a great movie.
We're going to do a beer name rename game, because last episode we didn't do that, but I would like to do that this time around.
Yeah, let's hit that.
We like to pick one of the beers we liked, and it doesn't at this point, because they're all dark lagers.
They're all dark
slightly
lagers.
different.
I want to vote for the first one.
Yeah.
The first one.
I feel
Sundowner.
Sundowner.
That matched the movie the best.
So let's rename Sundowner.
Okay, so what we do is you go to IMDb, and you can scroll about halfway down. If you're on a website, on a browser, and not necessarily the app, because the web app or your phone app and stuff don't necessarily show you the actual words. So you go about halfway down, and there's a synopsis area, and it's got a bunch of words that are circled, and this one has about 220 additional plot keywords, and these are submitted by users of IMDb. And what we like to do is scroll through it and pick some interesting combinations thereof and rename one of the beers that we think it would go really well with this film. Aaron, you're over there, you're grinning.
Yes, I have one that I like a lot. So the Sundowner, I'm going to rename it. The plot keyword is tied up while barefoot.
tied up while barefoot. I'll admit, when you first started, I thought you were talking about the tide, like water. Is thinking, okay, where's this gonna? Ooh,
Right? It starts out one direction and then it veers tied up while barefoot. It's not just tied up, and it's not just barefoot. It's tied up while barefoot.
While barefoot.
That's very good. I think I have a contender.
What's your contender?
Ooh.
Because of the flavor profile, because of how it matched this bizarre little movie, quirky comedy.
Yes.
If I saw a beer named Quirky Comedy, I'd buy it without even looking at the style. If it was a smoothie beer, I'd still buy it.
Oh,
So-
wow.
That's how sold I'd be on the title.
So
Marketers take note.
yes, marketers take note.
Specifically for Blake, specific marketing.
I also really enjoy beer labels and can labels and bottle labels that include photography of animals such as
Yes,
dogs.
yes.
And so there's three-legged dog is one of the keywords in on here. Which
God.
is
Cody.
Cody
the dog.
I would either call it Cody in quotes or I would call it tripod because three-legged dog.
Ooh, tripod, dude.
Yeah, but it'd have to be the three-legged dog picture. And
Oh,
it's
of
a
course.
beautiful dog, and I'm really glad that they had an animal that everyone was like rooting for, and they left him behind.
Do you want the picture on the can to be the dog looking at the Filipino pirates or the crew?
The crew, not the pirates. Screw them pirates. They were shooting at people.
But
and
there was
killing
such a
people.
pivotal scene where like, oh, and Harry said, it's Master. And we see the pirates.
The pirates are there.
And Jeff Goldblum being shot.
That's right.
Almost point blank. Like, dude just full on just like.
Homie
cap.
survived.
Filipino pirates, though, they were the worst shot. Like, even accounting for like ocean swell and the moving boat, they couldn't hit. They didn't shoot anybody except for Alistair Hennessy.
Yeah.
So-
Like when they're playing cards with him, when they got
That feels very
Yeah,
Wes Anderson,
so-
whereas in a Tarantino movie, everyone gets
everyone
shot.
would have been shot. Yeah.
Have you ever shot a handgun before?
Rifles, yes. Handguns, no.
Really? I
It
shot
is
some handguns.
Really hard to hit a target.
They jump dog.
They move around, and if you're not like steady with it with two hands, you're
not
and
trained.
aiming. If you're not trained,
Hands
dudes are just like
relaxed.
sideways holding it, cap,
Gangster
cap.
style.
gangster style. And I'm like, you're not hitting anything.
Filipino
with that.
pirate style.
Yeah, or with their little automatic, like they didn't look like AKs. They were just like little.
Like
Semi-automatic.
yeah,
Some
yeah,
kind of
yeah.
semi-automatic
Uzis,
rifle.
Some off-brand rifle.
It's like you're gonna squeeze the trigger for 3 seconds and then you're gonna be out of rounds.
I loved the like little 2-foot scimitars that they had. Also, they had guns,
yeah.
but they also had little knives.
Those were like cooking knives.
Yeah,
Those
they
were
were.
seriously like I've seen some Filipino street food videos, and I'm like, yeah, no, women chop fruit with those.
Right,
I'm like, what is this?
So are you checking your YouTube thinking, I've seen this before?
I have. I was like, wait a second. I no.
That's what you were looking at on your YouTube history. I was like, what's got Dan up in a bug right now?
He's looking for more X-Men as if Wes Anderson did it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought it was going to be Willem Dafoe as various
Goblins.
Variants.
various goblins.
It's a goblin variant film.
But
All right.
what a great movie though.
It
Yes.
was. Thank you.
I recommend it, having never seen it, and it being, 12 years later?
Yeah.
From 2004,
2004.
clearly. If we're talking about it,
Maybe
it was,
less.
Yeah.
I'm not good at
It
math.
was a
but-
December film, so
Yeah, Christmas.
opened
A strange
December
choice for
25th.
Christmas.
Yeah.
it was weird because we were doing a little research on it, and it totally lost money. This
Yeah.
film,
Which makes me
tanked.
sad because it's like a kind of artistic and quirky and unique.
And every time I've
and
heard about
beautiful.
it, it's always been spoken highly, highly in all my friend groups. Like,
Yeah.
it's I don't know,
But I don't think
Yeah.
it captured the mainstream in the way that I don't know.
I could see that.
Do you guys happen to know like Wes Anderson's other films, like if they performed better financially?
I would say his most recent one not as well. But
Was that
his
the
other
Island of
ones-
Dogs?
No, the Island of Dogs was the animated one that he did.
Yeah,
that
yeah. What did he
pretty
do
well.
most?
That was an
French
international one.
Dispatch.
French Dispatch.
That one's fallen a little tough. People aren't as stoked about it.
Yeah,
but
because
I still want to watch it.
It's a complex story, layered on layered on layered. You know,
Mm-hmm.
like this one isn't quite. This is more straight storytelling. Again, it's kind of like watching the play.
I mentioned this earlier, and I feel like it's important with streaming now. This is a really good at-home film.
Yeah,
I feel like if I saw this in the theater, I'd be a little let down. But watching it in a friend's basement or at my living room or wherever, it fits a lot more as a home viewing thing. It's why
Yeah.
I think Netflix is,
Killing
Netflix, Hulu, all that stuff. It's important. Have a at-home movie.
Yeah,
A lot of 80s movies have that vibe of just, I can watch this at home, no big deal.
Yeah.
But
Right.
but a lot of big blockbusters, every Chris Nolan film you really should watch in a theater because it's how he makes them. But
So
Yes.
a philosophical question for you, Blake. Like, what makes
42.
What makes a movie a theater movie versus a movie a home movie? Because I understand what you're saying and I agree with you.
Ooh, that's a good
Like
question.
Steve Zissou, like I know I watched this before, but there was like 80% of the detail I had forgotten, and it was like was a real pleasure to watch it again and rediscover these things I had I'd evidently forgotten, since 2004 when I saw it. But I agree with you. Like, I think I may have seen it in a theater, and it might have been like mixed, maybe kind of not bittersweet isn't the right word, but kind of mixed in like, yeah, it's a great movie, but like it wasn't a great experience.
Yeah.
And now it's like it's a great movie and it's a great experience watching it, from Dan's couch.
I would say it's how the director makes it. Chris Nolan makes movies to be in theaters. Zack Snyder was going on a whole tirade about how his newest Justice League, which I didn't hate, but I was watching it fine at home, how it had to be a certain ratio. It's how they make the movies. A lot of the direct-to-DVD movies are made to just get made, get
on a
watched.
TV screen.
Yeah, like it's made to be watched. Like movie of the week was a thing for a while. Generation Z and below, that was a thing where it's just movie of the week was a whole deal. Like, oh man, movie just made for me to stay at home and watch. So it depends on how they make it, because there are big budget movies made that really just work better on a smaller screen. A lot of Guy Ritchie movies are more fun at home.
So I'm not going to use the term shovelware. So I'm going to try and ask this in a more respectful way. But like, do you think the emphasis is on like spectacle versus narrative or story? Like, is that maybe part of it?
It's been going that way. I love the Marvel movies, but Disney's really been pushing we're making a big budget, get butts in seats kind of movies. DC's been kind of doing that. And just all the other big theater companies, Rent and all that. All the big film companies have been doing that. Just like make a huge. The whole model was, it used to be make a huge movie so you can afford to make all the weird little indie shit throughout the year, and they've gone away from that. There's no more mid-range films anymore. It's either A24 small budgets or billion-dollar properties.
Yeah, the business model used to be like get a blockbuster then that would fund these other things that were maybe a little bit more of a risk that might be a blockbuster, might not, but.
There's still a lot of independent films that are coming out. I mean, if you look at
they're there. The problem is you have to look for them, which is unfortunate. Like, it's why I want people to boost that stuff more.
Yeah.
And
no, I was trying to get more kind of a philosophical take.
No, it's tragic. It's just like Edgar Wright makes movies that could work either in a theater or at home, and that's why I love his style so much. Like, Tarantino makes movies that. He's so horny for actual film. You need to watch it in a theater, but
you don't have to.
You really don't have to. But if you get to show it the way he wants it to be shown, it does look really fucking cool.
So when I was in college, there was an upperclassman that asked me a question that's always sort of stuck with me.
Was it "What's up, nerd"?
No, that was not it.
We had different experiences.
It was not I did not have like an Animal House college experience, unfortunately. But actually, probably fortunately.
Yeah, really, fortunately, that was awful.
But what he asked me is like, what movie do you think benefits the most from being widescreen?
Star Wars.
And I think you could also say like big screen. And my answer, way back in the day, unfortunately, I have to turn in my nerd card. It was not Star Wars.
Was it Porky's?
My answer was Lawrence of Arabia, because
there you go.
That's
a film nerd answer.
Yeah, the desert is its own character, and if you don't get to see the expanse, I feel like you lose a lot of the setting and the context. But I'm wondering, What's the movie that gains the most by being in a theater? Like, if you're going to choose one movie that you could put into an IMAX and you get to invite 20 buddies with you and free drinks, what's your movie?
Is this a movie that's previously been on IMAX, or it's just any movie?
It could be any movie. And actually, Star Wars would be kind of fun, because some of those like interstellar space battles in that sort of encompassing.
To stick to my love of Edgar Wright, Hot Fuzz.
Hot Fuzz?
I of his Cornetto trilogy, I prefer, my top pick is The World's End, but Hot Fuzz is such a good cop spoof action movie. It pokes fun at action movies, but it is an action movie.
I've never seen it.
Oh, highly recommend.
If it was 2004, I'd say.
Four years after Shaun of the Dead, we'll never get to watch it. Sorry, Aaron. It's 2 hours, but it's a phenomenal film.
I'm going to say, how many Stanley Kubrick films have you seen on IMAX?
2001: A Space Odyssey.
2001, yes. Sorry.
That makes way more sense. Okay, 2001.
I thought you were referring to the John Cusack 2012 disaster movie. Hold on, Dan. Wait a minute.
I was like, I didn't know
that would be
2001: A Space Odyssey, because of just the visual, simple fact that you don't have to be high to watch it and be like blown away. You're just going to get blown away by it.
Yeah.
And the pacing of it, like some of those things take their time, and you are in space, and to have that immersion.
Yeah.
That's a great answer.
When they introduced the spinning and the guy just jogging through the halls, that's a really good pick, Dan.
I'm sorry, Dave. I can't
sorry,
do that.
Dave. I'm sorry, Dave.
Futurama did a great spoof where they had to pop up in can tabs to stop their Sigourney Weaver voiced ship AI.
Nice. I think we've expanded a lot on this episode, and I appreciate everyone hanging in there and listening to us ramble on about fun things. And, as you say, find a film you want to watch, find something you want to drink with it. And in this case, with this film, I think, a lighter beer. Something complex, maybe a little bit. I thought about sour beers, but I didn't go there. I was like,
I think a sour could feasibly work with this.
Yeah, maybe.
I could have a good sour after a dive.
Yeah. And they don't really do that much diving. That's the fun part. I mean, you see.
Owen Wilson dives once, and then they have to resuscitate him.
Because he doesn't understand not to take the mask off or something. They don't really talk about it. But I was like, no, I've been there, done that.
Oh, boy. Yeah.
Good movie. Find a good beer you like. Thank you to Mac Wine Cellars for hooking us up with some beers.
Indeed.
And
Thanks to Aaron for joining us for another 2004 Odyssey of film.
Happy to be here. Thank you for the invite.
Yeah. So the opinions expressed during the taping of this podcast episode are those of the hosts. And if you don't hydrate,
You will dehydrate.
because I've been chugging water all film.
And if you're not careful, that seawater is going to get right in your lungs.
and you don't want that. That's really painful. Or in your eye.
Ooh.
Or
Salty substances in the eye is not a fun experience.
This is in the podcast.
No comment.
All right. So
Much funnier than my line.
This is Dan signing out. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Blake begrudgingly says goodbye.
Aaron says the deeper you go, the weirder life gets. Thanks for listening.